Now on this video, I'm going to show my relatively simple method that I use to detail motorcycle wheels, to get off all the grime and chain lube and road grime and everything that comes along with riding in the rain and riding on salty roads, and then to put on a protective coat that'll keep it easy to keep the wheels clean in the future, or after a rainy ride, cleaning them up or get the salt off. So on today's video, I'm going to try to show the method that I use, and I've used for many years now, to keep the wheels on my small bike collection clean. It's always a labor of love, of course, and let's be clear, there's a lot of ways of doing it. A lot of people use power washers, garden hoses, God knows, leave the bike out in the rain, I don't know. I've seen a lot of methods, they all seem to work, but there's always a downside to almost every method. Now, in my case, it's a very easy method to do. The hardest part sometimes is getting the wheel up off the ground so you can spin it. But when you're cleaning a wheel, there's always the simple thing, you take a rag and wipe the rim. But getting into all the detail areas can be labor intensive. The way I'm going to show makes it just a little bit easier. Now, all the bikes in my collection have painted wheels that I've done the custom painting on. And I treasure them, and I think they add a lot to the appearance of the bike, and I always try to keep them clean. Many of them I've done with custom mixed paint that I've mixed, and I really think that adds even another special dimension to when you make a bike your own and personalize it. But keeping it clean is an issue whether you have stock wheels or fancy wheels or Marchesini wheels or whatever. And the bottom line is no matter where you ride or how you ride, you're eventually going to get stuck in the rain or ride over a dusty road or a salty road, and the wheels have to be cleaned. Now, I even have the wheels painted that are the spare wheels for my bike, and it's given me some extra practice in painting and extra practice keeping them clean, of course. And the bottom line is if you maintain them, even a minimum maintenance, keeping them clean like we're going to do today just takes a few minutes. It takes longer sometimes to jack the bike up than to get the wheels clean. But let's go on with this. So wheels get dirty no matter how you ride the bike, where you ride it, and here's a couple of the things to remember. There's brake dust, and that usually leaves the brake pad red hot, and it usually clings and sticks, very hard to get off. And it's very easy to clean the outer part of the wheel, but to get in there and all these little nooks and crannies around the caliper. Now, the method that I use, again, it's a labor-intensive thing. I don't want to use a power washer and get down in by the bearings and electrical fittings and everything. It's a delicate process, but when you're done, that wheel will be as clean as I can possibly get it anyway. So I always start with the back wheel. The back wheel is always the dirtiest, and it's a three-step process to get a wheel really clean. And no amount of wiping it with a microfiber is going to get it as clean as how I'm going to show. The reason is there's embedded grease and embedded brake rotor, little specks of that stuff, and they stick, and they're very hard to dislodge. But what happens is, the first thing is, I have a spray, a 50-50 mix of simple green. 50-50 is fine, and not a harsh degreaser. Some of those harsh degreasers that you buy at Harbor Freight, they'll ruin the paint or ruin an anodized finish. So that first step is to spray it and let it sit for a few minutes. And then we have our Harbor Freight steam cleaner. We'll steam it. The steam, the same as when you do laundry. It loosens the dirt. And then we're going to blow it dry with high compressed air, 125 pounds of air. And then put a protectant on it. I'm going to show that whole system on this wheel right here, which hasn't been really cleaned in quite a while. Now, this is the steam cleaner I use. I've used it many years. It's about $100, maybe a little less or more if you don't have a coupon. And I've used it religiously in the bathroom, cleaning tile, cleaning car wheels, and one thing, cleaning motorcycle engines and motorcycle wheels. And it works great. Now, there's several attachments. You can see how this works. This has a little brush on the end. So keep in mind what the whole process is. The simple green loosens up the particles. The steam actually flushes away the particles that are now in the simple green and leaves a coating of water, and then we get rid of the coating of water with the high compressed, high pressure air, 125 pounds of air. And then the final step we'll put on, and I'll show the protectant that I use. Very easy to do, and that wheel then should be good for a long time. Now, because some of the bikes don't have spools, I use a car jack just to get the wheel up off the ground so I can spin it. I have to use a come along to get the front wheel off the ground. But being able to spin the wheel, of course, makes it a lot easier. Simple green, watered down 50/50. Full strength is unnecessary. I haven't found it any better to use it full strength. You do, again, do not want to use these Harbor Freight type degreasers. Anything that's really a very, very powerful degreaser is going to tend to deteriorate the paint or the anodized surfaces. So I really don't want to do that. And I don't want to get any high pressure water from a hose or a pressure washer. There's spots I don't want to get it in. So it's a good idea, keep the steam cleaner moving. I'm putting some of this footage in fast forward because I don't want the video to get too long. And get in all the nooks and crannies, and of course don't burn yourself. And the steam is over 200 degrees. But this is where all of the grit that the simple green has loosened up, you're basically flushing it away. And then the last step is you have to get compressed air. Or if you didn't have a compressor, I guess you'd have to use towels to dry everything off. Now it's great for getting stuff off right down between the wheel and the sprocket. But I don't want to get any directly on the chain. It's not going to do that any favor. But anywhere there's a big glob of grease or anything, road grime, this tends to take it off pretty quick. Now my compressor goes to 125, but I guess even less would be fine. It just take longer. But I have a nice little air chuck with a little tubing extension. I can get down in all the little nooks and crannies. And they make, several different varieties of this. But anything that'll blow the water away. In fact, Ray uses a leaf blower when he does similar things, and I guess it works okay. Anything you can use to get it dry. But again, if you don't have this, you can always use a towel. And when you're all done, throw it in the laundry. But now the hard part. Now that we got it dry, we want to use this product, Turtle Wax Spray and Dry. It's made to go over a wet car. So if you really don't get all of the water off, it's okay too. And this really puts on a nice layer of wax protection. Now the whole purpose of this step is there only to make it that in the future, the next year or so that you ride the bike, it's easier to clean the wheels. Now, if you just do the rim, of course, that's okay. But if you can get down into all the little nooks and crannies between the sprocket and the wheel, all of those little areas, and get a coat of protection on it, the next time you go to do this, the steam will blow it right off. It's just like having a coat of wax on a car. It just makes it easier to keep it clean. And in my case, because these wheels are very special to me, I've got a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it's a labor of love to do these. And I've done a lot of them too. And I want to keep every one of them. And to me, I just don't like, even if you have a beautiful bike, it's all nice and shiny and polished, and you have the wheels are gritty, I don't know. It doesn't work for me anyway. But again, this is all in the eye of the beholder. So that really is the three things you really need to do this, and it does go very quickly. And the simple green, and the turtle wax, and a steam cleaner. And if you don't have a steam cleaner, I guess you could just use a rag or something, a wet rag. I don't know. But anyway, the steam cleaner to me is a tool I really have gotten a lot of good use out of. And those wheels really came out nice. Now with the back wheel done, and of course that's the one that gets to me the dirtiest because of the chain lube and everything. I like to make sure I haven't left any spots, any water spots or anything on it. I know it's going to be protected now for a little bit of time anyway, and I just really don't want to leave any spots, get some up on a muffler or on a swing arm, little water spots, anything. I try to get it all detailed out, get it cleaned up, because now I'm going to take the bike, take it down off the stand, take it into the garage and put the front wheel up off the ground using a come-along. And this electric come-along that I got from Harbor Freight, another tool that I've used, it was about $75, and yeah, I have used it so many times. It's so handy and so useful. So no matter how you get the front wheel off the ground, and there's enough ways to do it, or that roller thing, I have one of those rollers, but I don't like using it. I'd much rather use the come-along. It's one of the tools, once you buy it, you wonder how you ever lived without it. And to do basic things like this, like the cleaning, and even if you're not doing a deep detailing like this, if you're just wiping the rims, it's worth its weight in gold. Now, in between the discs and the wheels on some bikes, like the R1 and on the MT-09, some of them it's not too difficult to get a rag on the end of a paint stick down there. But on some bikes, and this happens to be one of them, it's impossible. You need little baby fingers or you need little whatever. Now, Jose had a good trick. He uses a long-handled paintbrush to get down in there. Yeah, that's a good trick. And, you know, to be honest, I've used it, and thank you, Jose. But one thing about this method, you get every nook and cranny in between the caliper, bolts, everything. When you're done, it's very satisfying to have the bike that clean. And you don't have to do it every week or something. You know, a deep cleaning like this, maybe I would do it once a year even, or if you were so inclined to go to bike shows or the meetups or whatever. But the thing is, once you really see how much stuff comes off, especially between the caliper and the wheel, that area is always so gringy, and that caliper material is red hot when it comes off. Sometimes even just wiping it doesn't get it off, but it seems like the steam and this method seems to do a good job getting it clean. Now, of course, it is important at every step of the road here to get all of the water off. The one thing, I always think of it this way: water is probably a motorcycle's worst enemy because it gets into electrical connectors. It can do all kinds of little nasty things in places you don't even see. So I would try, and in a perfect world, I would want to have all the water off of the bike. Now, and it doesn't really matter if you do it with compressed air. I think it's the easiest way. But certainly if you had a bunch of old towels, that'll do the same thing. It just might take a little longer. The hardest part is always getting the wheels up off the ground. And once they're off the ground, and once you get your little bit of protection on, the next time you do this, you find out it's a lot easier to do it. Now, the first time, now in this case, I know there's other products beside the turtle wax product, but the turtle wax has really worked for me. And what happens is we've just gone through a really awful winter where they have oversalted the roads, and I was going crazy a couple of times trying to keep the wheels and some parts of the bike, like the front of the fairing or the exhaust pipes on some of the bikes. And it just, the steam is probably one of the easiest ways to deep clean and get every little bit of it off. Because the salt is corrosive too. It's not only that it's not attractive, it's corrosive too, and it's corrosive to everything. To paint, to steel, brake rotors, bolts, everything. Now, I always finish up any little cleaning project. I like to get down and dirty and get every little spot I see. And if I see a gouge in the wheel from a stone chip or for something, I'll try to touch it up on an ongoing basis. I'm very, very fussy about this for a lot of reasons. A lot of these older bikes that I have, the 30 and 40-year-old bikes, I have 4 historically registered. Some of the parts are unavailable, and if you can get them, sometimes they're just as bad as the ones you have. But I know if I maintain the ones I have, I'm willing to put in an unlimited amount of maintenance to avoid having the bikes go downhill to where every year they're just getting rustier and grittier. And I really like to keep it as good as I possibly can, because I know the reality is you just can't go out. You can go out and buy a new MT-09. You can't go out and buy a GPX. And some of these bikes, the way I have my small intimate bike collection set up, and a come along is a tool, by the way. Once you buy one, you wonder how you ever lived without it. And once you have a collection of stuff like I have, I don't want to lose it or see it go downhill or whatever. I want to have it basically forever. And the maintenance that I do and all the time and energy I put into it, to me, it's worth every penny, every minute. And I always think, well, if I didn't do this, what would be the big thing I'm missing in life? Would I miss some TV show or miss mowing the grass 3 extra times or whatever? But doing the maintenance and this cleaning the wheels is one of the parts of maintaining the bikes that I think keeps them new forever. So that's the very simple process that I use. It's a 3-step process. The steam cleaner is a great investment. I don't know what else to say about that steam cleaner. It just works great. no matter what I do, I find uses for it everywhere. And it's also good for cleaning car tires, of course, and bathroom tiles, you name it. And maybe these birds are chirping, they're so impressed with my clean wheels. Anyway, I hope that information is useful. If it is, pass it on to your friends. And if you have a better way of doing it, pass it on to me. Put it in the comments section. And thanks so much for watching. And of course, remember there are always more than one way to do anything. And I have only been able to show my method, and that has worked well for me for many years. And I'm sure there are other methods that work just as well. But it's always better to see various ways of doing things and then pick which way works for you. And we try to post something on our channel almost every day, something relating to riding, working on motorcycles, maintaining them, buying them, selling them, stealing them, whatever. It's all part of sharing our passion for motorcycling. And hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow.